in the AM with MC, fourth episode. Here we are. First and foremost, thank y'all for rocking with us. Um, I'd like to start this episode by talking about things that I do in the kitchen. So, without further ado, this is the first segment of Khan's Kitchen. So, what I did this week, I did some tilapia tacos. Was not really a fish eater growing up, and as a bigger guy and a guy who, when I was in college, I needed to like eat a lot of protein pretty often and stuff like that. Fish is pretty lean, especially in comparison to uh, other stuff that you could be eating. I mean, it could be a high volume situation too. Like you could eat more fish than sometimes other meats or whatever, and it'd be satiating. So just find a fish that works for you. Most white fish, it's just gonna taste like whatever you season it with. So like, tilapia, whiting, all that stuff. Big mahi guy. But had some tilapia, so did the tilapia up, seasoned it up. Um, I like my tacos. I like corn and flour tacos. But I'll do the fish, maybe like some onion, some cilantro, some black beans and corn like mixed together, some sour cream, some cheese, and some lettuce. And then that's it. That's all you need. If you're really feeling adventurous, you can dress it up with some avocado lime ranch that they have at Chick-fil-A. That's just like the god topping for everything. And it's just a little je ne sais quoi. But enough of the tacos, man. Let's get into the sports. Unrivaled has premiered as the women's 3-on-3 league. It's a 2-month league. Unrivaled has 36 players. There's six teams, 6 players per team. They do subs because it's 3-on-3 and it's full court. It's a condensed court. I think most courts are like 94 feet. This was probably like 70, 71, 70 feet. Um, so far, so good. So far, Skylar Diggins Smith has really come on as a strong player in the league. She's hit 2 game winners in dominant fashion. She's a player that would excel because she's crafty. She has good wind and she's highly skilled. She's a veteran, she's a pro's pro. I'm excited to see more of a Kate Martin in this league. I'm excited to see Brianna Stewart kind of get a game where she's consistent. The first game she played, she really wasn't seeing her shot fall like that. I'm excited to see Nafisa Collier. Uh, a lot of players who are in the league. Unrivaled has done many things that are unprecedented and unseen domestically. So first and foremost, let's just get the big one out the way. The players in Unrivaled are making an average amount that is way more than they would make in any other league that they would play in. So that's obviously a big plus because it's 2 months out of the year. They can all still play in the WNBA. The only thing that would maybe hinder you from playing is injury, right? So far, no one's gotten injured. Cameron Brink is on a team and she's rehabbing her injury and she's committed to play for that team for next year, but she's doing the press and stuff like that this year. But that speaks to the candor of the league that she would even do that. And the league definitely worked out either paying her full salary or a portion of her salary to do that as well. Again, speaks to the league. They have all these private investors. Okay, so the money is there. All right. Massive pro. A pro that people don't think about is childcare. A lot of the players have children and they have childcare before, during, and after the games through the league. The food in the league, the food, the hospitality, right? All that stuff goes a long way. Being able to have good weight rooms and good nutrition, again, all that stuff goes a long way. A lot of these WNBA teams in these smaller markets don't have that stuff. Even teams that are in big markets, you saw what Angel Reese was able to highlight the Chicago Sky did not have. You saw where she was having her opening press conference. Ridiculous, right? The Indiana Fever just broke ground on a $78 million facility that's supposed to be, revolutionary within the WNBA. Is a $78 million facility sustainable for every team? No. Obviously, they have a unicorn over there in Indiana from an economic perspective. But Unrivaled has, again, So many pros. A lot of the commentators, right? So you think about the product, and this is really where WNBA Commissioner Kathy, I think Engelbert is how you say her last name, but Kathy, this is really where she's gonna run into a lot of her bigger issues because there's so many things that are being done that you could have done. You see the way that TNT is packaging games as opposed to ESPN, ESPN2, and the other platforms that the WNBA is usually featured on. TNT is just doing a better job. TNT normally is the go-to platform that NBA watchers watch the NBA anyway. So you probably, as a commissioner, should have thought to yourself, what can I do differently from that front? Many of the coaches in the WNBA are very revered and smart, but Unrivaled also has those coaches plus some more, like a Phil Handy, like Phil Handy's out there coaching. Teresa Witherspoon, who recently lost her job in the WNBA, is coaching in Unrivaled. So the coaching rapport and the coaching ability is there. The commentators are way more knowledgeable and way more unbiased all across the board. It's hard to say that Unrivaled is not better as it currently stands. It's not supposed to be a beef thing though, right? It's not supposed to be our thing versus your thing or whatever. But what Unrivaled is representing is the players putting pressure on the organization, which is the WNBA, because a lot of the players have equity in Unrivaled as well, which makes it very unique and one of one in that way. And so what they're all saying is you need to treat us like this, or this is how we would like to be treated. It's very simple. This is what we feel like we deserve. And it's very simple. And obviously they all should be paid even more than they're being paid now, because if you look at what the potential is within the game, right? And again, what a lot of their counterparts are being paid, um, yeah, they should be getting paid even more. But Unrivaled has been doing great so far. I do anticipate like problems, like I said, but I just as of right now, it's really, really good in its infancy. And I want us as fans of basketball to be happy with how good it is in its infancy. We can worry about those bigger scale issues, maybe about like whatever the championship looks like or doesn't look like later. But in its infancy, it's beautiful. A couple final notes on Unrivaled here. Um, one on player safety and one on what I believe is currently happening amongst the players at Unrivaled. So, because of the timing, right, this is basically a time for all the players to poach each other. I watched Sue Bird say something very similar, but like they're clearly all using this time to be like, hey, this is what it would be like to play for my organization. Let me show you what it's like in real time to play with me as a teammate, and so on and so on and so on. And so what you have then is that some of the players who might have opted out of Unrivaled or who are at home or who are in a box watching a Chiefs game are like, I should have been there because this is when this is happening, right? And you really have to wonder about certain players who would possibly want something else for themselves in the future. Nalissa Smith is not playing in Unrivaled, but she's made it very clear that she wants to be somewhere else. She's in a relationship with DJ Carrington. She's in Unrivaled. So with Nalissa Smith spending a lot of time around there, and having just played a lot of basketball in China, you have to wonder who is she talking to over there about where she's going to play next. It's stuff like that that is absolutely happening in the Unrivaled realm. And lo and behold, or sorry, not lo and behold, but all in all, like I said, this is not supposed to be Unrivaled versus WNBA thing. But Brittany Griner is playing in the Unrivaled League. She was famously or infamously, right, in Russia, detained for possession of like a THC card, I believe. But she was like being held like in jail, right? And the only reason she was over there was because she was supposed to be playing basketball, which she had done routinely for many years. And she had I believe she had the card for like her anxiety or something like that. But the point remains that you shouldn't have to go to do your job in a place where your safety might be threatened, because of whatever reasons. She's not the only person. Like there's tons of other players who can speak to things that happened overseas, and it's not just like I want people to get to stop talking about her having something that would be illegal in half the states in America. It's not about necessarily what she did or did not have. It's more so about us claiming to be these proud Americans and welcoming these proud athletes. Like Americans have always protected and been happy for American athletes. But for some reason, when we have these WNBA players who look like they do when they go to play in these places, we're not happy for our athletes, if they slip up or and they have this expectation that's put on them to be a certain way and all these things, right? And to continually prove themselves. But at the end of the day, most of these women are going to play for money because the WNBA is not paying them enough money. So again, Unrivaled, shout out to all the investors, shout out to all the players. So far, it's been a phenomenal product, sensational across the board. I'm excited to see it continue to play out. Shifting gears, let's talk about the NBA and the hot topic, or one of the hot topics, Mr. Zion Williamson. So Zion is a rare case of an athlete because he he jumps out the gym. Like his second jump is second to none. His first jump is almost second to none. But he's an undersized player. He can't shoot, and he is at times overweight. So what do you do with Zion Williamson? And he's yet to show he can stay healthy for a long enough time to contribute to winning in a meaningful or substantial way. What do you do with Zion Williamson? He comes back, he performs a 360, jumping out the gym. He screams, I'm back, I'm back. There's all these pictures about him looking slimmer and this and this and this. And the next game, he's suspended for violation of team rules. What do you do with him? What do you do? I think you trade him. And it sucks because I was very anti-trading him for a while. I thought he was getting a lot of flack in the media because he was an easy target. But now he's really showing that he's not completely bought into being a successful NBA player in the way that he should be as a number one pick player. He was the number one pick in 2019, 2018. And that feels ancient now, right? That feels like forever ago. Um, and you look at his peers and you look at what his peers are doing, what his peers are producing versus what he is not doing or is not producing. You can't even blame the roster at this point. I don't think you can blame coaching. A guy like CJ McCollum being on the team, who is the head of the NBA Players Association, who is a proven veteran, who is a guy, real lunch pail guy who had to prove himself coming from Lehigh, having him as your veteran and behaving like this is it's hard for me to fathom. Brandon Ingram is not like somebody that you would maybe consider a quote unquote veteran, but it's clear that him and Zion are like buddies. But then you have DeJounte Murray, who I think DeJounte Murray is the kind of guy who he talks a big game, but when it comes down to it, he likes guys who he can do dirt with. He's like, that's my brother. We do dirt together. Nobody knows. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got some stuff going on, and I just find it so hard to believe that Zion has these people who are supposed to be doing these things and saying these things in his ear, but then he's continuing to behave like this. So from a front office standpoint, you trade him. You have got to trade him because you don't want to continue to pay him to treat your organization like this. And it pains me because he is an undeniable talent of the basketball. The way that he plays basketball is it's mesmerizing. But you got to trade Zion, especially if he's going to keep moving like this. Can't have it. Can't have that walking around your building. Can't have people thinking that that is the precedent that the Pelicans play with and play and how you represent the organization. They also have a lot of young players that I like Jordan Hawkins, Trey Murphy. Um, you can't waste these guys. And you traded Dyson Daniels, the great barrier thief, who might be what puts Atlanta over the hump this year. They made the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years ago. They've beat a lot of high quality teams like the Cavaliers during the regular season. I think this might be the year that Trae Young goes to the finals. I don't know if he's going to win, but if he goes to the finals, it's going to be in part because of Dyson Daniels, a player that the Pelicans had and no longer have. They're also starting to give Brandon Boston some minutes. So again, they have a lot of young players I like. Zion's still a young player, but if he keeps acting like this, they need to ship him somewhere else. A brief break in the action here to talk about the show of the show of the show. That show would be The Wire. Unsurprisingly, this is not a show that's hiding. This is one of the greatest shows ever made. Omar is one of the greatest characters I've ever seen on screen, and The Wire really has something for everybody, regardless of how you identify. I think that the principles that remain within the show, the dialogue in the show, the feelings of the characters, the way that the show was written, is one of the few shows that when they kind of had to reboot, their main characters, they kept that same level of intrigue within the show and unpredictability, when they kind of switch over from I don't want to spoil anything, but in like the third-ish seasons, switching over to like a lot of the kids in the fourth season, they still maintain what they maintain. So if you want to watch some great TV and you just are looking for a great show to watch, The Wire is going to be your jam. All right, back to sports. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is playing some really, really good basketball. I thought that Team Canada would have done a little bit better this past summer with him at the helm. Maybe he was a little burnt out, but this could also be the year for OKC. And Atlanta OKC final would be really good for the league. It's probably not going to happen because of the odds of that happening, but that would be really good for the league. OKC is a team that has 16 first-round draft picks in the next like 6 years or something crazy like that. All their picks have been hitting, and they're playing team basketball. They love each other. OKC loves each other. If anything gets them past where they should be at talent wise or scheme wise, it's going to be the team love that they have for each other because they all genuinely want to see each other succeed. There's going to be a couple games in the playoffs where Chet Holmgren is going to have to be the leading scorer on their team. And because they all love each other, they're going to let him and they're going to support him. He has the ability, but I don't think that's something that he wants to commit himself to doing every night, especially knowing Shea has to get shots. Williams has to get shots, right? Like he doesn't want to commit himself to being that player. But I want to see him play next to Hartenstein for a lot of the near future because Hartenstein is the perfect big to let Chet be the four that he should be. He should be like a Kevin Durant kind of player, a Michael Porter kind of player, and I think that's what you have to see from OKC if they're going to go farther than Shea can take them. They're going to go as far as Shea takes them, but he should be the MVP. Jokic is Jokic, and you can, yeah, it might even be like the LeBron thing where now we're almost tired of greatness in a way of voting, like there's voter fatigue or whatever, because I think that's what contributed to Joel Embiid winning the year that he won. But I'm not going to give Jokic the MVP this year over Shea. You look at the record, you look at the way that they're playing, and a stat for you here, Shea Gillis is averaging 59.6 or 59.8% from 2-point range. And in Shaquille O'Neal's best season for the Lakers, he only averaged 59.1% from 2-point range. Shaq was shooting straight layups and dunks. And Shea is dribble, 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 stop, step, step. And he's shooting these tough mid-range jumpers that always seem to fall. He protects his body, so you can tell he does a lot of like prehab, rehab. He takes basketball serious. And there is a seriousness about him. I think Brian Scalabrine was the one who said, or it was maybe Chandler Parsons, but it was somebody who said that their team doesn't feel serious. People talk about how it feels like a big grown AAU team and that he's at the helm of it. No, he's at the helm of that because he's the best player and they respect him and they defer to him, but he's not a clown. Like they're having fun playing basketball. You don't hear about any guys in OKC doing anything crazy off the court because they're having fun playing basketball. So they have fun doing other stuff with each other. That's what you would prefer rather than players getting into hot water off the court. You never want that. Another team that's really surprising me is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Evan Mobley is taking that next step. He showed these flashes when he was in high school from what he can be from an offensive standpoint, but I think it all got buried behind how good he is defensively. So nobody was really like, oh, you need to do that because the Cavs have him and Jared Allen. So you're not thinking about what they can do offensively, right? You're thinking about what Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell can do for you offensively. Karis LeVert, those kind of guys who put the ball in the cup. Donovan Mitchell might be a first team All NBA guy this year. He has always just had that knack for putting the ball in the cup as well, ever since his Louisville days, ever since his Brewster Academy days. But I think that in Utah, he just grew tired with what he had to do. You know, he has a lot more on his. He has some good Utah teams. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's grown tired of what he has to do. His shot selection has improved so mightily, and his ability to attack the right from the right side. If you notice a lot of Donovan Mitchell, the way he plays, very similar to Anthony Edwards. He likes to go to his left, almost more than his right. And now that he has really honed in on being a player who just plays within the flow of the game more so than chucking up shots, he's playing some efficient basketball. He has the Cavaliers along with Darius Garland in a place that and I mean really everybody on that team, but they have them in a place they haven't been since LeBron James and co. So it would be a beautiful story if Cleveland won this year, but just them again being where they're at is a testament to all of their greatness. The final thing that we're going to talk about here is just a wake up call for everybody who might want to make the NBA. So let's just look real quick. I even have my pen out for this. So there's 60 picks a year, right? About 15 to 17 of those picks every year will be somebody international, and about 20 to 25 of those picks every year will be a one and done player. That's 37 to 40 out of 60 spots that are already almost predetermined before you even lace your shoes up. You can be a really good player and you might get drafted in the late second round. A good example recently was Cam Spencer, right? Then you're gonna go to the G League. If you're in the first round, you're gonna go to the G League. Jalen Hood Schifino is a first round pick for the Lakers, and he was sent to the G League, and he's still in the G League. So you do your time in the G League, and it's not like it was before. Like they're not just pining for guys out of high school to play basketball. Anthony Simons was a real unicorn in what he was able to do. They're not just pining for guys out of high school anymore. They want either if you're not a one and done or international, they want a proven guy. And not just any proven guy. You got to be like a Stephon Castle. You got to be, a bigger guy who can play that positionless basketball. They don't want the Frank Masons. Something that I always tell people is the year Frank Mason won National Player of the Year, when you saw what happened to him in his draft position, it was the wake up call that I needed about, how hard it is to again make the NBA. And nowadays, you have so many sons of NBA players who have the leg up. They have the genetic leg up. They have the advice. They have the coaching. They have the nutrition. They have the access to weight room. They have all of it. So you're playing against Ron Artest Jr. You're playing against Bronny James. You're playing against Kyan Anthony. These are all guys who are not factored in or who might be factored in, right? Right. Bronny James was a one and done, but maybe Bryce James goes 2 years. The year he comes out, you better believe someone's going to draft him. You think LeBron James is going to let one of his sons go undrafted? And Bronny James was a second round pick, right? Who's mostly in the G League, but he's gotten some time in the NBA. Even then, it's hard. It's hard to come by the time that he's gotten. You know, um, it is beyond difficult to make the NBA nowadays. It's beyond difficult to stay in the NBA nowadays. You have guys in the G League like Jahlil Okafor. Jabari Parker was in the G League recently. Trey Burke, Alonzo Trier, guys who, if this was a different NBA, would still be in the NBA and would probably be allowed to shoot 15 shots a game, to no avail. But now these guys are in the G League trying to prove themselves. And the only silver lining behind all of this is that the NBA is making so much money that it's okay if you end up in the G League, to flirt in and out the league and all that kind of stuff comparatively to what it used to be, because there were a lot of guys when the G League was the D League development league. There was a lot of guys who were basically homeless, living like single A baseball guys. Where nowadays I feel like a G League guy is really living more like a triple A baseball guy. Just to kind of put it in that kind of perspective. My favorite team to watch play basketball right now is the Charlotte Hornets because of Mr. LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball has a chance to become the new face of the NBA. You see Luka Doncic is injured. You see a guy like Giannis, guys like Tatum. They like to be more in the shadows. They like to be more to themselves. And those are two guys who are more proven than Melo, a little bit older and champions in their own rights. But LaMelo has that charisma. He has that X factor to him. He can appeal to lots of different kinds of people. He has his own personal brand. He's the face of his own team. Um, and he is a part of one of the royal families of basketball. So I think that if there's a player who is going to take over as the quote unquote face when LeBron retires, it's LaMelo Ball. And his coming out party is just going to continue. You know, sometimes it's hard to think that him and Anthony Edwards were rookies at the same time because you really can't go wrong. Those are two guys who are cemented as the futures of the NBA. Fourth episode of In the AM with MC. Thanks for rocking with us. This is recorded on the 19th day of January. Thank you. See you. Adios.